Hello! Welcome to the Christel Crawford Show in lovely Vancouver. I am on the patio of the beautiful Wedgwood Hotel in downtown Vancouver, and I stayed here last night. I flew in for 24 hours to get some administrative stuff done because I was living up here and now I'm living in the States. So for those of you guys tuning into the future, welcome to Vancouver in the early fall in the lovely Wedgwood Hotel. I'm your host, Christel Crawford. And I called this show, it's a big long sentence. I don't remember what I called this show now. Let me look it up. This is very smart. Hold on, I'm going to get it. So what's actually going on here and what's different than what I think is true? What's actually going on here and what's different than what I think is true? Hey, Sue Lynn. Hi, Dorothea. I just got back from a weekend with some of my family, with my sisters, and there's going to be lots of background noise. We're in the middle of a city, so how does it get better than that? Sue Lynn, Maxine, Liga. Hi, Gabriella. Hey, welcome to Vancouver, early fall on the patio with all the sounds, all the things, sirens, etc. Okay, so what's actually going on here and what's different than I think is true is my topic. And every single time that I spend time with any of my family, I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful for so many different reasons. I could easily do a show this week on, the gift of family that you can never see because you're so busy making yourself wrong, or the gift of you that you never see because you're so busy making yourself wrong around your family. I could have called this that. But I chose this sentence, so what's actually going on here and what's different than I think is true, because one of the things that I got really aware of over this weekend with my family is how many things that I have thought were true that weren't actually true, that kept me from being able to receive the gift of me and of them and of everything. So I was doing a little reading like I do. Basically what I do when I'm about to do a show or a class is I kind of thumb through all my stuff. So I've got sheets and sheets of clearings from telecalls. Hey, Maggie. I've got sheets and sheets of things from the reference materials. I've got manuals. I've got all kinds of things. And so I will literally kind of look at my collection and go, what wants my attention? And as I was looking for this show, looking to talk about this thing, I actually stumbled onto the projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections, telecall clearings. And that's where I got this sentence for today. So anyway, I want to start out by reading some of these clearings, and then I want to riff on these a little bit. And what I want you to be looking at is truth. Is there anything about you, about your family, about money, about anything that you have not wanted to know because you're busy thinking something else is true? And everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate all that? Right, wrong, good, bad, POD, POC, all lane, shorts, boys, and beyonds. So if you're new to the clearing statement, or the blah, 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 blah thing I just said, go to theclearingstatement.com and you'll get all of the download on that. Hi, Heidi Ann. But so here's one of the clearings from call number 1 on the projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections call. How many of you have made your judgment, your separation, and your rejection more real than your awareness? And everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy it and create it all? Right, wrong, good, bad, POD, POC, all lane, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Hi, Heidi Ann. What have you made more real about separation, judgment, and rejection than your awareness? And everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy it and create it all? Right, wrong, good, bad, POD, POC, all lane, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Here's the thing, okay? Projections of anything, expectations of anything, lead to and always create separation, judgment, and rejection. There is no better place to look for this, or where you might be doing this, than in your primary relationship or in the relationships with your family. And so I had this weekend with my family, and I saw two things. I saw where they had projected and expected that I would be a certain way over the years, and had therefore separated, judged, and rejected themselves and me. And then I saw where I had projected and expected that I would be a certain way, and then separated, judged, and rejected myself. And there were so many things that occurred because now we're all kind of in this very different space of allowance. Now, if you don't know what allowance is, if you're new to this concept, allowance is really different than acceptance. Acceptance Acceptance is this place where you have to align and agree with something in order to accept it. Well, yeah, and there's so many different ways that people do this to themselves. You know, like my partner Jim is so great to talk to because he's not an access consciousness bobblehead like I am. You know, he's still really new to all this stuff, but he has lots of questions. And, you know, he's like, well, I'm trying to accept that. I'm trying to accept that, which means basically it's not working for me. I don't like it. There's something I want to change about it, but I'm trying to get over myself so that I can move on with my life. Is kind of what that means. Allowance is where everything's just an interesting point of view. It's just interesting. It's not significant in that direction. It's not significant in this direction. It's just an interesting point of view. So basically you become the rock in the stream. Hi, Miriam. You become the rock in the stream, and then everybody's whatever they got going on, everybody's whatever just goes around you, and you're the rock in the stream, and it's all just interesting. It leaves you having total choice, totally empowered, all those things. Now, the thing that we do with family or primary relationships or pretty much everything is we project and expect things. So like, especially like, let's just take a relationship, for example, like even his and my relationship. Well, we've said that we love each other now. So now that means now we've got projections and expectations about what somebody being in love with you means, right? And each one of us has our own separate set of projections and expectations about what this means. And so you put those two people in the same situation into this blender, and guess what gets to battle it out when you're functioning from that? All the projections and expectations. And so it just leads to separation, judgment, and rejection, right? Great system. Great system. Yeah, we should definitely keep doing that. There's no flaw in that at all. But the thing is, we don't know we're doing it. And, you know, so hanging around my sisters, I'm going to kind of weave back in and around this last weekend with my sisters, was the gift of that was getting to see, one, how much we've all really, in our own ways, chosen a lot of allowance. Two, where we're still doing a lot of suppression of anger, which is fascinating. That's a whole other thing I'm going to be studying about and be doing a Facebook Live on soon. But three, like really where that is what we were taught as a family, was to have projections and expectations. And so my youngest sister, Hillary, is newly married, and they are really good together. They support each other and all that. But there are these places where she projected and expected that he would do this, and he wasn't going to do this, and she wasn't really willing to be aware. And so it created this fight. And one of the conversations that we all got into about this kind of thing was it's just a reality that you're going to have problems in a relationship and you just have to work through them. Now, that is just an interesting point of view. But when you have that as a point of view, and for you that point of view is real, guess what you're going to create from that point of view? Relationships being work and having to work through things. And so you will, of necessity, create projections and expectations so that you can separate, judge, and reject, because it's all based on that point of view, okay? And so I want to invite you to look at what points of view are you using to create the difficulties in your life are you choosing? And everything that is, will you destroy and create all that? Times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, online, shorts, boys, men. Now listen, that one question, what point of view am I using to create the difficulty here, is a question that you can use in anything. If you are having difficulty in any area, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's with family, significant other, money, business, job, thing, body, anything. Hi, Aurelia. I know. I know you never do that. Any difficulty is created by a point of view. People aren't showing up to your classes. Wow, what point of view am I using to create no people in my classes? No money's coming in. Well, what point of view am I using to create no money? Now, this is all based on the assumption, on the reality, on hey, Heather Nichols. This is all based on you create everything that shows up in your life. So you got to look and see what's true for you. What's light for you is true for you. What's heavy is a lie. So based on the fact that you created everything that shows up in your life, what point of view am I using to create the difficulty I'm choosing is a great question, okay? So kind of circling back around to this first clearing from call number 1 of projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections is how many of you have made your judgment, your separation, and your rejection more real than your awareness? And everything that is times a godzillion when you destroy it and create it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, online, shorts, boys, men. Now, I have a Facebook group many of you are in called the Awareness Challenge. Hi, Borjana. I like that. There's a Facebook group you can come join that's free. Hi, Rebecca. called the Awareness Challenge, How Aware Are You? And when I changed the name of it, because it was called something else, what I became aware of is that we don't know how aware we are, okay? Now, you only use projections and expectations to cover up your awareness of what works for you, of what you'd actually like to request and demand of you, of what you can actually create that goes beyond projections and expectations. Projections and expectations are actually the reason and the justification for your life not working. Now, like, why would you want a life that doesn't work? I know, but a lot of us want a life that doesn't work because it justifies and validates our points of view, right? So we've got all these underlying hidden points of view about things, about relationships are hard, you have to communicate to get what you want, you're gonna have fights, that's what it is. About family's difficult. We have all these, and that's just like the tiny tip, right? And all of that's creating our life. And so when you have a point of view, you have to prove it. That's how that goes. Why? Because we like to be right and not free. And all of us, I'm lumping myself in there. We want to be right and not free. We want to be right about any point of view that we take. So if you take a point of view, you have to be right about it, so you're going to prove it. So we use these projections and expectations and then the resulting separation, judgment, and rejection to prove our point of view in the first place. And we can go, see, I told you. See, I knew it. See, this was never going to work. See, and then we're right about failing. And so that's good. That's what we want. We want to be right, not free. So freedom, actual freedom with family, with relationships, with money, with business, it doesn't matter, comes from awareness. Why? Let me talk about that for a minute. So one of the conversations that I had with Gary Douglas at a 7-day class about my sister actually was around a certain situation that I had been a part of creating like 7 years back. And what came out of what I created was all of our siblings, like we were all friends before that, and then we just weren't after that. And that had stuck me ever since. And I asked Gary about this. And so I was telling him the story of what happened. And he ended up interrupting me. And anytime you're telling yourself a story, you just interrupt yourself. Go stand on your head and be like, I'm going to give yourself 2 minutes and do story and then stop. But he interrupted me and he looked at, he's like, you don't want to see how insane your sister's being here. And it just stopped me in my tracks because I was like, it was so outside of what I had already decided. And what I had already decided about the situation is that I was wrong and I was trying to figure out a way how not to be wrong. Hello, I'm wrong. That's just real. And that's what I had told myself. It's just real. It's just true. It's just a truth that I'm wrong. Guess what? It's never true that you're wrong. Anytime you find yourself in the wrongness of you, you are lying to you. You are never wrong. You may be incorrect about some information, but what's always true about you that we never want to look at, never acknowledge, is that you're great and awesome and wonderful. We don't want to look at that. We want to try to find the wrongness of us, and we want to try to find the rightness of the wrongness of us by validating it with other people's points of view. Everything that is times a godzillion. We destroy it and create it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, all names, shorts, boys, men. So I had already decided I was wrong about this with my sister. And I was just talking to Gary to try to clear me of it. Can you help me clear where I've been so wrong? He said, no, what you have to do is be aware. And I'm like, what do you mean? Are you aware of how insane she's being? No. What do you mean? Judgment is insanity. Separation is insanity. Projection is insanity. Rejection, insanity. Expectation, insanity. Judgment, insanity. And this is where we'd been functioning from as a family forever, and she was still functioning from. And she used anger and rage and fury and hate, which are also distractor implants, to overpower me. And I bought into it because I bought that I was wrong. So then we had this nice little dance where I got to be wrong and she got to be right, and that was our dance. That had been our dance for years. Now, I had to start to look at, for what reason would I not want to be aware of insanity? And I started to see everywhere that I didn't want to be aware of insanity. I didn't want to be aware of how insane my family was functioning. I didn't want to be aware of my mother. My mother seemed a little easier because that was sort of obvious insanity. But I didn't want to know that judgment was insanity. I didn't want to know that I was being insane half the time, 99% of the time, by judging myself. I didn't want to know all that. So how much awareness of insanity are you refusing with the projections and the expectations and the separation and the judgment and the rejection that you're choosing? And everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate all that. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, all land, shorts, boys, and bands. So this sentence that I started this whole show with, which is, oh man, this is so good. So what's actually going on here? And what's different than what I think is true? What's actually going on here? What's different than what I think is true? I really did function as that this whole weekend. What's actually going on here? 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 And here, if you want to really play with this, go hang around your family and literally for every single thought, every single feeling, every single emotion, every single point of view that comes up, that they bring up, that you choose, whatever, in your own head, go, interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Wow, interesting point of view, they have this point of view. Interesting point of view, they have this point of view. That is the beginning, very, 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 very beginning of unraveling where you've bought into all this other stuff. And listen, for your life to not work, for your life to be dis-ease, for your life to be uneasy, you have to have bought into stuff that's not true. You as a being are all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. Now that's not what you're taught. Weren't raised with that. You didn't have a manual slapped to your ass, but that's true. All of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. So if that's not what's going on, there's something else going on. There's some other buying of something else that's going on. So this thing of what's actually going on here and what's different than what I think is true. So I don't know about you, but like when I got around my family, I was constantly going into the judgment of me. Trying to find out, like if they did that thing over there or I was defending. I was either judging me or defending. It was kind of those two things. Now, this last weekend was so different. I was so able to be interesting point of view, which is huge. I love that. I love seeing the progress. And for all of you guys that are using the tools, acknowledge when there's progress, because those are choices that you've made. You did that. You created that. That's awesome. Now more of that. What does it take to have more of that? And I've been really demanding to see things as they are. Well, to see things as they are, whether it's money or business or your family, you've got to be willing to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. They're all there. The good, the bad, and the ugly are all there. About you, about your family, about money, about business. It's all just there, right? Like I look at the earth and I'm like, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the earth is the leaves are stunning. There's a hurricane coming into South Carolina, like a Category 5 hurricane that's going to destroy a bunch of stuff. The tectonic plates and volcanic activity is like constantly going. Like that's the good, the bad, the ugly of the earth. It's all there. Does that make the earth something to reject or just something to be aware of? When we live on the earth and we are unaware, we become at the effect of it. If the people in South Carolina choose to be unaware of the hurricane, they will be at the effect of the hurricane. So the same is true of you and your family. If you choose to be unaware of where they're functioning from, you will be at the effect of the hurricane. Your family will be the hurricane that wreaks havoc on your life because you've chosen to be unaware. So I'm just like, well, I would keep choosing that for what reason? I'd rather be really, really aware. I want to be aware of assholes. I want to be aware of judgment. I want to be aware of rejection and projections and expectations. Why? Because it gives me information about where that person's functioning from. Not it gives me information about where I'm wrong. It just gives me information about where I'm functioning from. They're functioning from. Where everybody's functioning from. And if I have the information, hi Darren, then I can make choices. Then I get to be in control. I get to actually have the life that works for me. You cannot have the life that works for you when you're not willing to have all the information. And you cannot have all the information if you're functioning from projecting and expecting that people are going to be a certain way and you're not willing to see and be aware of what is. Boom. So how many of you, I'm reading from the clearings, how many times have you made yourself wrong because somebody else is filtering everything you say through their projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections? Hi, Hannah. And everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy it and create it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pot, pock, land, shorts, boys, and beyonds. How many of you would go from your projections, expectations, oh, here we go. This is great. How many of you would go from your projections and expectations of anything based on your experience to your separations, your judgments, and your rejections, rather than going, okay, what's actually going on here and what's different than what I think is true? So everything that is times a godzillion, we destroyed and created all. Right, wrong, good, bad, POD, all insurance, boys and beyonds. This is so good. So, are you functioning from the projections and expectations of the people around you? Yes or no? Just get an awareness about that. Are you functioning from the projections and expectations of your business? Yes or no? Awareness. Are you functioning from projections and expectations of money? Yes or no? Just awareness. If you are, then you can just know that and go, okay, well, I'm projecting and expecting that this person will put the toilet seat down if I tell them enough. Girl, he's always going to leave it up. You just got to put it down when you go in the bathroom. And this whole thing actually leads into a conversation of the 5 elements of intimacy, which is trust, honoring, gratitude, vulnerability, and allowance. And I got time for that today. Maybe we'll do that another day. But trusting that, so this is the other thing about, relating to my family, is like really trusting that they are who they are. And that's trust. Trust is knowing that they are going to be what they're going to be, that they're going to be. They're not changing. If they change, it's a miracle. But not going with the projection and expectation of if I be different, they'll change. If I choose consciousness, they'll choose consciousness. That is a conclusion of magnitude. That is not true. Like my family has no interest in consciousness whatsoever. Not even a little bit. They're not curious. They're not curious. So if I function from, well, if I shut up, this is another one I did. If I be quiet long enough, they'll ask me something. No. So anyway, there's all these conclusions that we make about if I do this, then this. Well, that's hopes and dreams, babe. That's not actual reality. And awareness is such a gift. When you're really willing to see, hey, listen, they're not interested in that. So what contribution can I be to them? And that's where, I was like, I'll go paint. I can do that. I can paint. I can support the choices that she's making. I can support the choices that my sister's making. I can go hang out with my nephews. I love that. I love being that. It takes like an eensy beensy bit of me, not all of me, and they don't have any interest in all of me. They just love the bits of me that they see and can perceive, you know what I mean? And that's okay. It's not wrong. But where have you made what's actually true wrong? And when you make what's actually true wrong, then you cannot know it. You can't know it about you. You can't know it about them. And then everybody gets run over like Mack trucks. We all do projections and expectations, and then we separate and judge and reject each other. It's great. And that's this reality's way of functioning. That is welcome to the way the world actually works. But you have a possibility available to you. What if you had a possibility available to you that went beyond this reality's way of functioning? What if that's true? What if there's a reality beyond this reality that you are capable of generating, creating, and instituting? What would that be like? What would beyond this reality choices be like with your family? What would beyond this reality choices be like with the people you're dating? What would beyond this reality choices be like with your children, with your body, with your business, with money? You have to just ask that question. What is beyond this reality? Because I'll tell you, this reality is projections and expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections. We get to project and expect, then we get to reject each other, judge each other, and separate from each other. That's this reality. That's how my whole family functioned forever. They're still functioning like that. The thing that's beginning to change it is I don't function like that anymore. For the most part, I'd say 80 to 90% of the time, I am being interesting point of view, which I have had to work like a motherfucker on that. I've had to work on myself. But because I have, now I'm in the situation and I am the anomaly now. Interesting point of view makes you an anomaly. And so what happens when there's an anomaly present? It throws question into everybody's world and nothing works quite the same. Have you ever been in an argument where somebody's projecting and expecting at you and they're mad because you didn't do it and you were just like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. What happens to the argument? It just goes away. It only takes 2 or more to begin to create a new reality. So if you keep doing projections and expectations of money, of business, of people, that's what you're going to keep creating. And there's that reality. There you go. If instead you choose interesting point of view, more and more and more, everywhere you aren't currently choosing it, because trust me, this is a never-ending, expanding journey of consciousness, then you become the anomaly walking. You become the thing that actually begins to create question and change just by being you. And you're generating and creating a reality beyond this reality. This reality says you have to decide things and conclude things and make a decision. Beyond this reality is like, hey, what choice do you have here that you haven't considered? This reality goes, well, you said you love me, so that means that you'll do this, this, and this. Beyond this reality says, thank you for loving me. Now what else is possible that I haven't considered? And really starts to observe the other person going, hey, what's this person actually going to deliver? Does that work for me? It's filled with kindness for you. Kindness for you. Gentleness for you. Allowance for you. Which ends up being kindness and gentleness and allowance for everybody else. So what if instead of trying to be nice, you actually practiced and played with even more interesting point of view? What if instead of trying to stop projecting and expecting, I got to stop that projecting and expecting, you just noticed when you did it and noticed when other people did it. And then you're like, huh, does that create what I'd like to have? Like when I get mad at him because he didn't do the thing that I thought he was going to do, that he said he was going to do, that I knew he wasn't going to do, does that create what I want to create? No. So what would create what I want to create? What do I want to create? Do I want to create peace and ease? Do I want to create dis-ease? Do I want to create fighting? Do I want to... This is where you start to get clear on what it is you want to create. We don't think about that. We don't even ask ourselves that question, what do I want to create here? We just go along and just creating all kinds of stuff from unconsciousness. Awareness is the key to freedom. Knowing what is, exactly what it is, good, bad, and the ugly. So what question can you begin to be? What amount of awareness can you begin to choose? How much interesting point of view would you be willing to practice? And what change and future would that generate and create for you and everybody around you? End scene. I adore you like crazy, and I'm so grateful when you're live with me. And if you love this, I'd love it if you'd share it. I will see you next week.